What's happening, everybody? Today I want to talk about conventions, specifically what conventions could look like in the future, and ask you a very important question. Do you foresee yourselves ever stepping into another convention, and what would it take for you to do so if you don't think that you will? So we all know what 2020 has done to the world, what coronavirus has done, and the precautions that people are taking right now just to go back to some semblance of a normal life. And it's actually, all of this comes on the heels of C2E2. And I mentioned in several videos how C2E2 2020, which happened, was it early March? Sometime March, because it's only a couple weeks before the shutdown. So it was already, I just remember I was with my guy, and so we already had this crowd, we're already in this convention space, Chicago, in huge crowds, and all of a sudden, with all this stuff still going on in the world, and then go to this convention, just mad people, and we already know what conventions are, and the running joke with conventions, with hygiene, people not showering, but you already have to think about what conventions do. So conventions bring these masses of people, just hundreds and thousands, and we already know what San Diego Comic-Con, their numbers look like. So just mass people gathering for 3-4 days of a weekend, and especially during hot summer months. So conventions, and you have people are just bumping into each other. They're just crowded in lines and constantly breathing, sweating on each other. And again, going back to the running joke, which people not showering, not wearing deodorant. Every time you see tips for first-time convention goers, people always mention the hygiene, take showers, and wear deodorant, because we all know what it's like. And sometimes these crowded convention spaces, and sometimes they are ventilated and air conditioned, but still, when you're talking about hundreds of people, thousands, just tightly clumped, gathered together, just mad body heat, and again, breathing and sweating on each other, bumping into each other, standing in line. Sometimes you're just in the same spot with dozens of other people for hours. They're standing in lines, or even if you're stopping at booths, you're browsing booths, and you're just people are there, artist alley, you're lined up, you're just clumped up together with tons of people. So you already have to keep that in consideration pre-COVID. So now with COVID now, and we've seen just how it's affected different businesses, and some businesses obviously won't recover, certain industries, and I think the perfect example is the movie industry. So I like movies, obviously. I love movies. I love the movie theater experience. I like going to the movies because I just like the big screen experience, the comfy seats, and it's just a perfect way to see a movie for the first time. And now this year, one of the last movies I was going to see was Invisible Man, and I ended up seeing it, I think Redbox, but I had wanted to see it in the theater because I had heard it was good, and I won't get into the specifics of movies, but I just think about that industry and what that's done. So, and I'm thinking like, man, I don't know if I ever want to go to a movie theater again. Like, I just don't foresee that happening. At least for some time. We gotta talk about strong vaccines and damn near cures or whatever. But I just don't foresee that happening. And with movies now is different because, okay, I'm just giving up the movie theater experience, and I can do that. I can sacrifice that because at the core of that is just seeing a movie, and I can do that at home. I can do that on DVD, online, like digitally, whatever. So that's the core. The core is just that. That's the end goal. The experience is something else. So I'm willing to sacrifice that because I can still do that. Conventions, you can't. It's not the same thing because conventions are this nerdy amalgam of different things. You have cosplay, comic dealers, panels, screenings, and signings, artist alley, and just all this stuff that creates this entire fan experience, nerdy experience for just thousands of people. So you don't get that, but you do get with the online convention stuff. We had DC Fandom and other online kind of presentations. Again, similar to, I always use the Nintendo Direct one because I feel like they've kind of been ahead with that. That's just been their kind of running thing for E3. So I just kind of go back to that as a handy example, but other places have done digital presentations before, so they're not the only ones out there doing it. But we might start seeing more people go to that. I believe the reception to other online events this year, including DC Fandom, have been quite well, and there had been, in the absence of San Diego Comic-Con and other conventions that were supposed to happen in, this last 5-6 month range, and then even going through the end of the year with, we were supposed to have New York Comic-Con, which was in usually early October, and I think Baltimore Comic-Con would have been in May. We don't know when Heroes Con is. That's over on the East Coast, but I feel like that's earlier in the year. I could be wrong. But it's just to use those as a couple examples of things that are, I don't even know if they've even been officially canceled yet, at least New York Comic-Con, but I feel like it has. So we've already had these shows that got canceled, and in their place, we've had online kind of presentations and online events to take their place. Now, you only get the part of the fan experience with that, because you get the presentations, or at least the screenings, the trailers, and maybe some of the panels, but they're usually conducted a little bit different, but you can still kind of get the same idea from them. What you do miss is the cosplay and the comic dealers, which is one of my favorite things, Artist Alley. And now Artist Alley is even bigger because, Artist Alley and the comic dealers, because that's people's business right there. Artists, set up at conventions, and they invest money in tables and travel, and they make that back, selling art and commissions and just setting up connections for work networking. Dealers, they're boxing up their comics. Sorry, we're bringing this stuff, bringing all these wall books, and they're traveling. And same with artists, with hotels. So they're setting up, and now they just lose, and they just make bank. And that's one of my favorite parts, is digging through boxes, and just one of my favorite experiences. I always gotta hit the boxes throughout the entire weekend, finding deals, scratching books off my want list, finding new books I haven't seen before, finding cool variants, and again, just looking for deals, because I'll be digging through all the boxes, cheap boxes, higher boxes, grabbing stuff off the wall. I'm just looking for, just coming back with tons of books. So you lose out on that. Those people lose out on their business. We lose out on finding cool stuff. Toy vendors as well. So, so now we're going to, what could this look like in the future? I have no idea. Because what precautions are there going to be? What could conventions look like in the future? Are we talking about a decrease in numbers? Like, all right, we're limiting the number of people, the number of attendees per show, either per day or just for the entire show. How would that work? What other conventions what other protocols will be taking place? You're talking about masks and hand sanitizer spots, or you can go just get a squirt and just sanitize your hands, arms, whatever, because you're bumping into people. There's definitely going to be some skin-to-skin contact. So hand sanitizer locations around a convention hall, and I think the biggest one going back to is the people. Like, you're just going to have to reduce the number of attendees at a show. So what is really going to happen, and how many people are even going to just risk it? Because you're talking about this mass population, so from fans, creators, and just people that staff the shows, the people that staff the companies that are working in the shows. So thousands of people, dozens of people who are actually just working, and people attending the shows. So, and you have to imagine some of those people already have pre-existing conditions. They don't want to risk it, but now their livelihood is at risk. So they're looking at their health or their livelihood. How are you gonna navigate that? How are you going to make that decision to do that? And then people are just gonna be like, all right, I'm not risking it. I don't want to step foot inside that. And that's kind of where I am right now. I'm going back to the movie theater. Like, I don't know, man. And like, I even gone back to the shops. I was still going to the shops during this whole time, but they're pretty low traffic areas, and obviously nothing compared to a packed convention hall on a Saturday, which is obviously the busiest day of any convention. So what kind of things would you need to see in place before you would be okay stepping into a convention? Or are you one of those people who just believe it's a hoax, or you just don't really think that you're that much at risk at it? Because there are a lot of people like that out there, and they just don't believe it. They don't believe in the precautions, don't believe in the seriousness of it. I absolutely do, because people are dying out there. and this has to be taken seriously. And things will, our way of life as we've known it, just needs to be adjusted and reevaluated. And conventions, as much as we love them, those are going to be one of those things, and those could definitely potentially be on a chopping block, which will obviously be a massive hit to our fandom and just what we've come to know. But that's just kind of one of those things. And the biggest thing is people's livelihood, because that's going to be a hit to a lot of people's income. People working the shows, like the actual centers where conventions are held, and people staffed by those companies. Like, all right, I imagine they have some people who only work conventions. Like, all right, you just can't do that anymore. Artists are losing out on Artist Alley, that work, those commissions, and those networking opportunities. And again, dealers obviously losing a big chunk of income. They're packing up stuff and just going out, and they can make up a huge chunk of money. That's just done for. So I don't know. Just want to throw this out there, just kind of get people's feelings on this, because we all love conventions. I've gone back, and even just last year, a couple of small one-day shows, and then I went to Ace Comic Con, and then this year hit C2E2 for a couple of days. It was great to be back there, Chicago. I had an absolute ball, tons of cool stuff. It was just great to experience that again. It's been, 5 years since I've been to a convention now? Well, 4 years going back to last year. But I just want to throw it out there. What do you think about conventions in the future? What would they look like? What kind of protocols would you need to see before you could be convinced to just go to conventions again? And would you be okay? Are you okay? Like, all right, if they come back, once conventions open up, I'm just cool going back, like, without big precautions taking place. But even though I imagine anything that decides to open back up will have that. So just let me know in the comments below. I just want to gauge everyone's interest and thoughts on this, because I was definitely looking forward to just being back on the convention circuit. I talked about that numerous times. Again, I had an absolute ball at those shows there, and we've had the digital events kind of take place, but those can only replicate a certain part of the experience. So that's just that. Just let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Happy reading, happy hunting, happy collecting. This is GENOTHADRAGON. Thanks for watching, and peace out.